cast your mind back. What did you think you could achieve at Stamford Bridge?
Well, after speaking with the owners, they were very ambitious. They were very clear in terms of what they wanted to try to do. They wanted to challenge for major trophies again, change the culture, use some younger players. They were new, though, in fairness. So as it transpired, it wasn't quite as simple. It wasn't a straight road, but no, the challenge and always the reason to go there was a sporting challenge to try to compete for major trophies. If you look at Chelsea the last 25 years or whatever, they've been as successful as any team. So the chance to do that, to have that opportunity to work with younger players, to change a culture, to build an environment, at the same time to sign some top players that compete at the top end, that was the bit, and obviously to win the Premier League and to compete for all the major trophies.
It was a really good start, and I'm just thinking back to what Jamie was talking about earlier, asking you about how you go on implementing those ideas when you move into a new club and you're playing every 2 or 3 days as well. So how much of this was down to amazing coaching, Graham?
Yeah,
what was the key to getting off to a flying start like that?
Well, who knows? I mean, obviously we did some things well. After the Milan game, I think the first Milan game, we lost Reece, and I think we lost Wesley as well. We'd always lost Kante had injured before we got there, so all of a sudden there was a bit of adjustment that had to be done whilst still trying to compete at that level. You're probably working out what players can do what, etc., etc. Before that, the window, they'd signed some players, the key ones defensively, the Rudigers, Alonso's, Christensen's had left. So the whole sort of team, if you like, was in a bit of flux, I would say, and trying to build and trying to stabilise it.
So were you happy with the group that you inherited, or did you think there was an imbalance in that squad?
No, I think there was a collective identification that the squad would need to evolve. Like I said, I think Chelsea previously had built their foundation on strong defence. They'd struggled, a little bit to score goals to take them right up to the top of the Premier League. But as I said, in that window before, Rudiger, Alonso, Christensen were key players to that. They were out the team. And then after 2 or 3 games, Reece had gone for us. Fofana was the replacement, had gone. Koulibaly was in, but it was adapting to the Premier League. Cucurella hadn't quite settled in as quickly as he would have liked. So there was a lot of just adjusting that was going to happen. And like I said, before a World Cup, 14 matches in 6 weeks, it's impossible to play everybody every minute. So just finding that stability, it was a bit of a struggle, but it's a live and learn, I guess.
We're watching from the outside, wondering what Chelsea are going to do in the January window. I don't know if you were having the same thoughts from inside the club, but this was the spend, £313 million. How much did you have to do with this little lot?
No, I was there to try and to support, really. The owners decided the squad, and they made the decision to invest in the team. I obviously tried to explain the pros and cons of it, in terms of January can be an expensive time to buy players because you can sort of overpay. It's not a guarantee that you're going to actually improve at that time, because the players that you can see there, it's not Harry Kane, it's not Declan Rice, it's not proven Premier League players. They're young players coming from maybe different leagues, maybe with a close winter break, for example. So to get up to speed, to hit the ground running, to help Chelsea win from the off, which is ultimately what happens when you spend 300 million, the expectation goes up, and the pressure goes up on the team and all the rest of it, and that's part of what we sort of, I guess, had to deal with. The other part to it is, if you're going to make those additions, then you probably need to move some out as well. That didn't happen, and then you're left with quite a big squad, which is, if you've got 30 players plus at any club in the Premier League, it's not ideal. So there were some challenges there. We had a bit of a tough period for a couple of months there. And then the last 5 games, we won 3, drew 1, lost 1, beat Dortmund to go into the last 8, but it wasn't enough.
Well, what was your feeling when you're bringing these players in? They're new. It's Chelsea. They're probably looking at you thinking, "Come on, what have you got for us?" It's not a Champions League manager coming into the club, and that's what that club have been used to. If, say, a Mourinho would come in, or a Conte, or Ancelotti. What was the feeling going into Chelsea as a club, with its supporters, players, everything about it? Because I've always looked at Chelsea as a really ruthless winning machine who will basically what happened to you is just if it's not quite working in their eyes, you're gone.
Yeah, and I think that was the culture of the club. That's how they've acted over a period of time, and it's got them success. So of course, a huge respect for that. But you could, I suppose you could feel that. You can feel it from the outside. You can feel it from the media, the supporters. There's probably a mistake I sort of made, was thinking that new ownership means that there's a chance of a change of culture. But actually, culture runs a lot deeper than that. So I think before the World Cup, I think we only lost three matches in the Premier League. One to Arsenal, who were top at the time. One to Newcastle away and Brighton away. But already the world was quite closing in. It was close to crisis. And perspective sometimes is not so easy to get. And at the time, Chelsea were used to winning, like you say. They're used to competing. And I think it was an easy thing to say, OK, we're not winning. It must be the coach who's not used to, not played at that level, not worked to that level. Maybe he's the problem. And I can understand why they think that, because the results weren't what they expected.
Was it a shock going into a team and the actual scrutiny that came with the job so early on? Was that a shock for you? Because obviously you're managing at Swansea, you're managing at Brighton, doing really well, but and as a manager you're coming against United or Liverpool or Chelsea or Arsenal, and you're watching these managers get a bit of criticism, come under a little bit of pressure from the outside or the media. Once you're actually in that hot seat yourself, how does it actually feel?
Yeah, you can definitely feel the difference for sure, because the media scrutiny is more. I always look at it like this: if there's a traditional 6 teams that are vying for the Champions League spots, there's always 2 that are in crisis.
Yeah.
There's always 2 that you're going to go after in the media, because it's part of the story, it's part of the game. And I suppose, to experience that, and as much as you can say, it's a bit like when you go from the Championship to the Premier League. You say, is there a difference? There can't be that much of a difference, but there is, because there's more scrutiny, there's more pressure, there's more this. And I think it's the same when you go from a Brighton, with the greatest respect, to a team that should be competing for the title, should be going for the Champions League. There is a step up, but that's why you take the step. I mean, life, I think, is about that. It's about taking the challenges, it's about trying to push yourself, about being out your comfort zone. And the only way you find out is if you experience it, and I'm sort of better for it. But at the time, yeah, it's different, that's for sure.
You mentioned those last 5 games, winning 3, drawing 1, beating Dortmund to get through to a Champions League quarter-final with Real Madrid as well. Was there any sense when you lost the Aston Villa game in your head this could be curtains, or did it come completely out of the blue with those ties against Real Madrid just waiting there?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, because we're still in that competition, and I think whilst we were in there, maybe we felt that we could do something, and we're looking forward to that game. But again, when you look at the results that we had, I can understand why the owners made the decision. As a coach, you know that if the results aren't good, you're at peril.
But did you feel like you were getting somewhere with the team?
Yeah, ironically, the performance against Aston Villa was quite good. We spoke with him after the game, and he was very complimentary of the performance and how he played. We lost 2-0, and no one wants to hear that after the game, because you lose 2-0, it's not good enough. But the reality of it was, it's not nothing to beat Dortmund. It's not nothing to get into the last 8 of the Champions League. And you could see afterwards it was a bit complicated, the situation. Whoever followed us for the last months or maybe even a year, it was not easy, because like I said, the squad had changed that much. The stability beyond the back room, the staff, everything had changed that much that it was a very turbulent period in Chelsea's history. So one that obviously I'm grateful to have experienced, but obviously I wish I would have done better, and wish we would have done better, and things would have been slightly different.
But I guess when you've had that experience and you've come so close to something as well, I suppose, in your mind, does it make you hungrier for another crack at things?
Yes, I think it does. But I think you've also got to put things in perspective. I think everyone's quick to put you down and quick to compare you, and you're not this coach, you're not that coach, you're not this elite coach or that. I started off in the 9th tier in English football, or the 4th tier in Swedish football, and over a 12-year period I tried my best every single day to improve, to get better, and I eventually ended up at Chelsea in the last 8 of the Champions League. I think that's a story that I'm really proud of, and a journey that I've been really proud of. However football goes now, and whatever football views, okay, I understand, but I know my ability, I know what I can do. And now it's just a case of seeing what the right opportunity is. It has to be the right opportunity. That's one thing I've learned from this whole experience is it has to be the right thing for me. And if it is, I'll do my best.
We wish you well for it, Graham. And I think the level of job that you're being linked with, as we touched on in the first 90 minutes of this programme, just goes to show something of how people think of you as well. Thank you for being with us tonight. You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
How was the therapy session?
It was great. Thank you very much. could have done with this 18 months ago.
Couch therapy.
Great to see you, Graham. I think a lot of people probably haven't seen you probably since you left Chelsea, April of last year. Has that been a deliberate ploy to stay away from the limelight?
It has, to be honest, yeah. Spend some time with the family, connect with them after a 12-year journey, which has started in the fourth tier of Swedish football and ends in the last eight of the Champions League. It's a journey that doesn't come for free, and it's nice to be able to spend some time with them, connect with them, and see what the future brings.
And for you, really, as a coach, the first real bump in the road, how hard was that to accept? How hard was it to handle?
Yeah, of course it's disappointing. It's never nice when you lose your job. I think in any walk of life. I think, but in the end, you have to treat it as a learning experience. You have to treat it as an opportunity to grow and improve. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had. I'm grateful for the experience. It was tough and it was challenging, but there's some highlights as well. And like I said, it's about putting it into perspective, not trying to blame yourself completely, but not trying to blame everybody else either. It's about finding the balance and reflecting and coming back stronger. I
read an interview last week in which you gave, in which you talked about that anger and bitterness and frustration that you felt. I think the first thought was, well, you're perfect to be a pundit now.
Exactly.
Have those wounds healed, though?
Yeah, I think it's a normal human reaction. You just have to deal with it as best you can. As I said, I think time heals a little bit and perspective heals. But at the time, we're competitive. You want to succeed, and the reality of it is we didn't, and that ends in losing your job, which is difficult to accept and deal with at the time. But you have to deal with it. You have to understand what went on, what went well, what didn't go so well, and then move forward.
So that's 17 months, Graham. What have you done in that time to better equip yourself, if you like, make yourself a better coach next time?
Yeah, it's a combination of lots of things. I think, again, as I said, connecting with family and friends, getting that perspective, trying to put the whole 12 years, 13 years into a picture rather than just focus on the 7 months. And then I got my football fix from going on courses, education, trying to see people working in their own environment, different contexts about leadership, to test myself in different surroundings, watch other sports, watch other organisations, and watch you guys. Watch from afar, watch everybody else's problems. They seem a lot easier when they're not yours.
Have you watched a lot of football?
Yeah, I have. I'm fortunate that we can get the tactical cams, and so you can still watch the game and get the best bits of the game, the tactical elements of the game, but not have the camera. I mean, it's just how it is. I turn up with a football game with my two boys, and all of a sudden I'm linked to the job that the manager's under pressure. It's not very pleasant. So, but it's been nice to take my lads to football. It's been nice to do that, and it's nice to watch it in my own house, away from the prying eyes of the media and the scrutiny that comes with the job ultimately.